It started on an ordinary night, the kind that slips by unnoticed. The sky above the Chilean desert was calm and endless. The stars scattered like bits of crushed ice on black velvet. Inside a small observatory, a young astronomer leaned over his monitor waiting for his telescope to finish its scan. He was expecting another routine data log, numbers, coordinates, maybe a faint image of a comet. Instead, what appeared on his screen made him freeze. There it was, a faint pulse. Just one, then silence. A few seconds later, another. Perfectly spaced, perfectly identical. It wasn't like the usual radio noise that the sky throws out. This pulse had structure. It was steady, mathematical, almost deliberate. He checked his instruments twice, then 3 times, thinking it might be an internal glitch. But the reading stayed the same. He called his team in. They stared together, whispering theories. Maybe a star was flickering oddly. Maybe a new kind of pulsar had been found. No one thought about aliens, not yet. They were scientists trained to look for logic, not legends. Still, something about that repeating pattern made them uneasy. It felt alive. By morning, other observatories in Europe and Asia had confirmed it. The same pulse, the same rhythm, reaching Earth from deep space. It wasn't random static. It was a signal. Governments got involved within hours. Satellites began tracking the direction of the transmission. The press caught wind of it, calling it the beat from beyond. Social media went wild. Some said it was an alien greeting. Others said it was the end of the world. The truth was, no one knew what it was or why it was aimed directly at Earth. Then after a few weeks, something changed. The pulse grew stronger, louder, as if whatever was sending it was coming closer. For ordinary people, life went on. Work, school, traffic jams, coffee shops. Yet the thought lingered at the back of everyone's mind. News anchors spoke about it like a ghost story they didn't quite believe. People stepped outside at night and looked up a little longer than usual, half expecting to see something moving among the stars. Scientists tried to keep calm. They said there was no need to panic, that it might be natural, some strange cosmic event. Still, they couldn't hide the tension in their voices. Space had always been silent. Now it was talking. Weeks passed and the world began to split into 2 kinds of people, those who ignored the signal and those who couldn't think about anything else. In schools, children asked their teachers if aliens were real. In churches, prayers changed slightly. Less about daily troubles, more about what might be watching from the sky. The unknown had stepped closer to home. One night, 6 weeks after the first signal, a new event took place. It started with a flash in the sky over the Pacific Ocean. Bright, smooth, and fast. At first, everyone thought it was a meteor. But instead of burning out, it slowed down. The light moved with purpose, like a ship making its way through dark waters. Cameras caught it from islands and ships scattered across the ocean. It didn't crash. It didn't explode. It simply entered Earth's orbit and stopped there, circling the planet once every 2 hours. The thing was massive. Amateur telescopes showed something metallic, not rock. It had angles, lights, and long surfaces that glinted in the sun. No one could agree on its exact size, but everyone agreed it was beyond human technology. The ship, or whatever it was, made no sound, no attempt to communicate. It just watched. At first, governments denied it. They said it was debris or a weather satellite. But people could see it with their own eyes. Every night, it passed silently overhead like a cold silver scar moving through the stars. Within days, it became the most watched object in human history. Then came the silence. One by one, satellites began to fail. Communications dropped for minutes at a time. Some countries lost access to GPS completely. The pattern wasn't random. It was as if the strange object was disabling specific systems, watching the reaction, then restoring them again. Testing humanity, perhaps. Panic began to creep in. Stock markets fell. Flights were canceled. Crowds filled the streets in some cities, demanding answers that no one could give. The world felt smaller, suddenly fragile like glass under a giant's gaze. Then scientists noticed something new. A low, almost musical hum was spreading through radio frequencies. It wasn't noise, it was a pattern, soft but structured, repeating like a coded song. When slowed down, the sound revealed complex mathematical sequences, too precise to be random. For days, experts tried to decode it. Every attempt led to more confusion. The message seemed to build upon itself layer after layer, as if whoever sent it knew exactly how human minds worked, and wanted to challenge them. Governments went quiet. Information vanished from public feeds, but leaks still made their way online. According to one insider, the sound wasn't just communication, it was scanning the planet. The hum changed slightly when it passed over oceans, cities, and mountains, like a sonar pulse mapping everything alive and dead. In the cities, fear grew into superstition. Some said the visitors had come to judge humanity. Others believed they were here to save it. Conspiracy videos filled every corner of the internet. Some people pointed to the sky and wept. Others laughed, calling it a trick. Through all this, the object in the sky stayed perfectly still. No weapons, no signals of aggression, just that cold, steady presence. Then one night the hum stopped. Total silence. Astronomers everywhere reported the same thing. For the first time in months, space was quiet again. People slept easier that night, hoping maybe it was over. The next morning, every screen on Earth flickered to life. Phones, computers, billboards, even old television sets long thought broken. For exactly 5 seconds, a single image appeared, a strange symbol glowing in gold, followed by a pulse that echoed the same rhythm as the first signal from Chile, and then everything returned to normal. No country took responsibility. No hacker claimed it. It was impossible. The same broadcast had reached every device in every time zone, in perfect synchronization. After that day, the object in orbit tilted slightly, as if adjusting its angle toward Earth. It didn't move again. At the United Nations, an emergency meeting was held behind closed doors. No one knows what was said in that room, but one thing leaked afterward. A translation attempt was underway. The pulse contained data far more complex than anyone had imagined, and a group of experts believed they were close to understanding its message. In quiet homes around the world, families talked late into the night. Was this contact? A warning? A test? For the first time in human history, everyone from the most powerful leaders to the humblest farmers looked up and wondered the same thing. Who were they? And what did they want with Earth? Life went on, yet nothing felt the same. Children pointed at the night sky and whispered. Pilots refused to fly certain routes. Space agencies shut down launches. Even the air seemed heavier, as though Earth itself had become aware that something far greater was now looking back. The world had always believed that the stars were silent witnesses to humanity's rise. Now they knew the truth. The stars had been watching all along. They simply chose this moment to answer, and as the days passed, the feeling spread, a strange mix of awe and dread, that something ancient and far beyond human understanding had finally turned its gaze toward Earth. People didn't yet know what was coming next. They didn't know whether the visitors meant harm or help. They only knew one thing for certain. The universe had noticed them, and that knowledge alone was enough to change everything. The morning it happened, the world was half asleep. News channels had moved on from the strange signal story. People were back to talking about politics, sports, and celebrity gossip. The object in the sky was still there, silent and motionless, but it had stopped doing anything new. Humanity had started pretending it wasn't there. Then, before dawn, something changed. Fishermen off the coast of New Zealand were the first to notice. The dark horizon suddenly lit up, not with sunlight, but with a smooth blue glow spreading under the clouds. At first, they thought it was lightning. Then the glow began to move, slowly, deliberately, as though the ocean itself was alive. One of the men grabbed his old camera and filmed it. What he captured would be replayed around the world for years to come. The light rose higher, brighter, and then a shape began to emerge from behind the clouds. It wasn't round like the moon or sharp like a plane. It was massive, so large it didn't look real at first. It slid across the sky like a mountain made of metal, silent but heavy with presence. The fishermen could feel the air vibrating in their chests. In the next few hours, people from Japan, Australia, and parts of the Pacific Islands also reported seeing it. The same enormous shape glowing faintly, crossing the heavens. It wasn't falling like a meteor, it was slowing down. It was landing in orbit. By sunrise, the world had stopped. News networks dropped everything. Cameras turned skyward. The object, now fully visible in daylight, was unlike anything ever built by human hands. Smooth silver panels stretched across it like skin. Faint lights blinked across its edges in rhythmic patterns. It looked both mechanical and alive, as if carved by something that understood both science and art. Astronomers estimated it was at least 10 kilometers wide, maybe more. Some said it was shaped like a crescent. Others said it looked like a disk. Whatever it was far beyond anything humanity could imagine. Governments scrambled to respond. Fighter jets were sent to intercept, but none dared get too close. Every time one approached, its instruments went haywire. Compasses spun, engines cut out, radar vanished. One pilot described it as trying to fly through a storm of invisible waves. The jets backed off. The object didn't react. It just hung there, silent and still, watching Earth like an eye that never blinked. Over the next few days, it remained in orbit, perfectly motionless. Scientists tried to reach it with radio signals, no answer. They sent laser messages, mathematical codes, simple words like peace and hello. Nothing came back. The object simply existed above them, refusing to explain itself. People on the ground grew restless. Every evening, millions gathered outside just to look up. It became the first time in history that every country, every city, every person was watching the same thing at the same time. Humanity was united, but united by fear and curiosity, not by choice. As the days passed, strange effects began to appear. In certain parts of the world, radio frequencies went completely silent for hours. Some satellites stopped working. GPS systems drifted off course. Electricity grids flickered at random. It was as if the object was testing things, turning systems off and on again, observing how humans reacted. Scientists tried to stay calm, but the pressure was immense. Every lab was filled with tired faces staring at screens, searching for a pattern. The data didn't make sense. Whatever intelligence controlled the object wasn't just advanced, it was deliberate. Every action it took seemed carefully measured, like a teacher watching students during an exam. Meanwhile, rumors flooded the internet. Some people believed it was a secret human project. Others said it was an alien empire preparing for invasion. A few thought it was something spiritual, a sign, a warning, maybe even judgment. The world's leaders tried to calm the public. Press conferences became daily rituals, filled with empty words about observation, monitoring, and international cooperation. But everyone could see the fear behind those carefully chosen statements. No one had control. Not anymore. Then came the hum. It began softly, so faint that most people didn't even notice at first. Radios picked up a low vibration that never quite stopped. Engineers thought it was interference from solar radiation, but soon it became clear. It wasn't coming from the sun. It was coming from the object above. Every hour, the hum would shift slightly in tone. It wasn't random. It had rhythm, like a song being played in fragments. Sound experts realized it carried structure, repeating sequences of numbers. Someone or something was communicating again. In a lab somewhere in Europe, a small team began decoding it. The sound wasn't like language as humans knew it. It was more like math given a voice. They discovered that the hum used prime numbers and binary logic, universal concepts understood by any intelligent civilization. It wasn't a coincidence. Whoever sent it knew exactly what they were doing. Days turned into weeks. The hum became part of daily life. News anchors spoke over it during broadcasts. People played it in their cars out of fascination. Musicians remixed it into songs. Humanity tried to live with the unknown, to make it ordinary, but deep down everyone could feel it wasn't. Then, one morning, something extraordinary happened. The hum stopped. For exactly 5 minutes, the object above Earth went completely dark. No lights, no movement, nothing. The sudden silence was deafening. And then the message arrived. It wasn't a voice. It wasn't words. It appeared as a beam of light stretching across the sky, visible from every continent. The light split into patterns, symbols no one could understand, glowing faintly before vanishing again. Scientists scrambled to capture and decode them, realizing they repeated in perfect cycles. For the next 48 hours, the symbols kept appearing over oceans, mountains, and cities, each time in the same pattern. They were written across clouds, reflected on water, even mirrored in satellite images. It was as if the whole planet was being shown something. Finally, a group of linguists and mathematicians working together cracked a part of the code. The message was short, terrifyingly simple. It said, "Observation initiated. Cease planetary interference." Those 3 words broke the world's calm. What did planetary interference mean? Pollution? War? Nuclear testing? Or something even deeper? Something humanity didn't yet understand. Governments met in secret sessions. Military units went on high alert. Every major country released statements promising cooperation. For the first time, humanity was not preparing to fight each other. They were preparing for something greater, something beyond comprehension. People everywhere reacted differently. Some knelt in prayer, believing it was a divine message. Others filled social media with fear and jokes, trying to laugh off the terror. In classrooms, teachers struggled to answer questions they didn't have answers for. "Why are they watching us?" a child asked. No one knew. As days passed, the world's scientists continued to study the message. New data appeared in the hum's frequency, almost as if the object was adding more information, adjusting to humanity's efforts to understand. One scientist described it best. "It's like they're speaking slower now, waiting for us to keep up." That thought frightened everyone more than anything else. Then, something even stranger occurred. Every telescope pointed at the object noticed a shift. It was turning slightly, angling itself toward the planet's northern hemisphere. The move was subtle but deliberate, like a teacher stepping closer to a student who hadn't yet answered a question correctly. Lights along the object's surface flickered in slow waves. Some people said it looked beautiful. Others said it looked like a warning. In the streets of major cities, protests began. People demanded the truth from their governments. Conspiracy groups claimed secret contact had already been made. Others just wanted reassurance, but there was none to give. The world had entered a chapter no one was prepared for. Night after night, the object remained above them, watching, silent, endless. Then, without warning, every communication system on Earth received a brief flash of the same golden symbol that had once appeared across the sky. This time it came with a new sequence, shorter but more urgent. Experts worked without sleep. When they decoded it, the translation sent chills down their spines. It said, "You have entered the notice of the Galactic Empire." The words were both strange and deeply final. They sounded like a sentence passed or a law declared. The Galactic Empire. No one knew what it was or where it came from. But the meaning was clear. Humanity was not alone, and whoever had found them wasn't an explorer. They were authority. That night, as people all over the world stared at the sky, the object dimmed once more. For a brief moment, it looked almost peaceful, drifting among the stars like a sleeping giant. But deep inside, everyone knew this was only the beginning. Something vast had noticed Earth. Something powerful had spoken, and its warning had only just begun. When the message was finally translated, the world fell silent. For months, scientists had been trying to understand the meaning hidden inside the strange hum and glowing patterns. Everyone expected it to be complex, some long alien code, maybe numbers or shapes. But when the final sequence was decoded, it contained only a few short sentences, each one sharper than the last. The message said, "Observation initiated. Cease planetary interference. You have entered the notice of the Galactic Empire." No one spoke for several seconds after hearing it. Those who were inside the decoding room simply stared at one another, waiting for someone else to explain what it meant. Planetary interference? That was the phrase that caught everyone's attention. What kind of interference? And who exactly was the Galactic Empire? The message spread around the world within hours. Every major news channel replayed those words again and again. People reacted with disbelief at first, then confusion and finally fear. It wasn't an introduction. It wasn't a friendly hello. It sounded more like an official statement, almost like Earth had broken some cosmic law. In homes, schools, and offices, conversations changed. No one talked about sports or politics anymore. Every topic led back to one thing, the Empire. Children drew pictures of ships in the sky. Adults whispered late at night, wondering if this was humanity's last chance to change something before it was too late. Governments tried to calm people. They said it was too early to jump to conclusions. They insisted that the signal might be misunderstood. But no one truly believed that. Deep down, people could feel it. This wasn't a misunderstanding. It was a warning. Across the world, scientists worked together like never before. Labs that once competed now shared data freely. The message had united them through fear and curiosity. The first task was to find out what planetary interference meant. The phrase could have many meanings. Some believed it referred to how humans were damaging their own planet, cutting forests, polluting oceans, filling the atmosphere with smoke. Others thought it might refer to how humans were launching satellites and rockets into space, filling the void with machines and debris. A few whispered darker theories. Maybe humanity had accidentally crossed a hidden boundary in space, something the Empire had forbidden. Every idea seemed possible, yet no one could prove any of them. Meanwhile, the giant object above Earth remained completely still. It had not sent another message, but it also had not left. It simply floated there like a massive eye watching from the heavens. Every telescope on the planet was pointed at it. It looked peaceful, yet its silence carried power. People began to notice strange things happening on the ground, too. Some satellites began transmitting faint echoes of the same hum that came from the Empire's signal. In remote areas, compasses pointed in the wrong direction. Birds changed migration routes. Even the weather seemed slightly altered. Storms that were predicted never arrived, while unexpected rains fell where the air had been dry for months. It was as if Earth itself was reacting to being watched. In one quiet meeting at the United Nations, world leaders gathered to discuss the message. For the first time in history, they were all present, every major country, every rival power, every small nation. No one smiled. There were no flags on the table, only a single screen showing the translation of the alien words. Some argued that humanity should send a response immediately to explain that they meant no harm. Others warned against replying at all. If they can reach us, one official said softly, then they already know what we are. They don't need our explanation. The debate grew heated. Fear began to replace reason. One group wanted to prepare defenses, even though no one knew what that meant. Another group insisted on building a message of peace. But under all the arguments lay one shared truth. Earth was powerless to do anything if the Empire decided otherwise. News from that meeting leaked quickly. People around the world began to pick sides. Some demanded that humanity show strength. Others begged for peace. The internet became a storm of voices, each one convinced they knew what should be done. Still, the object remained quiet. One night, while astronomers were watching through long-range scopes, something unusual happened. A section of the ship began to glow faintly. Lines of golden light moved along its surface like rivers of fire running across metal. The pattern lasted for only a few minutes, then stopped. But something changed after that. The hum returned, deeper this time, slower. The frequency was different, lower, as if the Empire was adjusting its voice to make itself clearer. Within hours, radio towers around the world picked it up. The signal wasn't just numbers anymore. There were tones, almost musical, followed by what seemed to be speech. It was unlike any human language, no vowels, no familiar rhythm, but the pattern carried meaning. Machines could recognize structure, and within a day, linguists had confirmed it was definitely communication. After many sleepless nights, a rough translation was completed. The Empire's new message said, "This world's balance has been disturbed. Your actions reach beyond your limit. This notice serves as correction." The world reacted with shock once again. Correction? What did that mean? Was it a warning before punishment? Or was it a demand for change? People everywhere began interpreting the message in their own ways. Religious groups saw it as a divine sign, a message from celestial guardians sent to save humanity from self-destruction. Environmentalists claimed it was proof that the universe itself was warning Earth to stop harming nature. Others dismissed it as manipulation, a trick from an advanced race to control humans. Still, the unease grew. The word correction echoed in everyone's minds. Then something small yet significant occurred. A cluster of old satellites that had been drifting uselessly in orbit suddenly vanished. One moment they were there, the next gone. The object above Earth had released a faint beam of light that swept across the sky, and when it faded, the satellites were no longer visible. It was a demonstration, not violent, but unmistakable. The Empire had the power to erase things effortlessly. It was a silent statement that said, "We are watching. We can act." From that day, fear turned into deep reflection. News anchors began to speak softly, almost respectfully whenever mentioning the object. People started making small changes in their daily lives, planting trees, cleaning beaches, reducing waste. For the first time in history, humanity began to behave as if someone were grading their actions. At the same time, leaders around the world secretly tried to send new messages to the Empire, pleading for understanding. They wanted to prove that humanity was learning, improving, deserving of mercy. None of the messages received a response. Weeks passed like that, Earth waiting under silent judgment. Life continued, but the atmosphere had changed. Every sunrise felt heavier. Every night sky felt closer. Then came the day the Empire spoke again. It began just after midnight. The stars flickered for a moment like a breath had passed through the sky. Then, in every major city, electronic billboards, phones, and screens lit up with the same golden symbol that had appeared once before. This time it was followed by new words, this time in English. The interference continues. Final notice pending. The message lasted less than 10 seconds before vanishing. The world fell into chaos. Governments declared emergencies. Communication lines were flooded. People rushed into the streets, staring at the heavens in disbelief. Some cried. Some prayed. Others simply stood in silence, too stunned to react. Every telescope on Earth turned toward the object again. It hadn't moved, but small bursts of light now shimmered along its edges. It was no longer just watching, it was preparing. For 3 days the world waited. Every second felt stretched. Rumors spread that the Empire would strike, that this was the end. Yet no attack came. The lights on the object dimmed, then brightened as if it was thinking or deciding. And then, without warning, the hum stopped once more. In the sudden quiet, something unexpected happened. A faint signal, weaker than before, came through on the same frequency. It wasn't from the Empire's ship. It was from deep space, another source, smaller, fainter. The message was only a few seconds long, but computers confirmed it was real. The Empire wasn't alone. Something else out there was responding. No one could decode it completely, but part of the message was clear. It said, "Hold your place, Earth. The decision is not yet made." The scientists who heard it sat in stunned silence. Humanity wasn't just being judged. It was being discussed. Somewhere beyond the stars, powerful beings were debating what to do about them. And so Earth waited, every heartbeat echoing with the same question. Would the Empire show mercy? Or deliver its correction? The days after the Empire's second message were the strangest in human history. The sentence, "Final notice pending," echoed everywhere, on news screens, in classrooms, in the minds of people who could no longer sleep. Humanity didn't need to be told what it meant. A final notice was never a good thing, not in business, not in life, and certainly not from something that controlled the stars. The world grew quieter. Factories slowed down. Fewer cars moved on the roads. For the first time, smog lifted from cities that had been gray for decades. People looked up more often and spoke less. There was a sense that every action, every word, every movement was being watched. Inside government rooms around the world, debates turned desperate. In one high-security chamber beneath the United Nations, the air was thick with tension. Representatives from every major country sat around a wide table, their faces pale from sleepless nights. The glowing screen in the center displayed the Empire's last message in golden text. It had no sound, no movement, just those words. Yet it felt like a presence in the room. Some leaders spoke of peace. They believed the only way forward was to show humility, to send a message admitting humanity's mistakes. They said the Empire was not here to destroy but to warn. Others disagreed. They claimed that showing weakness could lead to disaster. "They're testing us," one general said sharply. "They want to see how easily we'll surrender." Every meeting ended the same way, no agreement, no plan. It was as if the whole planet had reached a deadlock between fear and pride. While the world's leaders argued, scientists kept working. In underground labs, teams studied the patterns in the Empire's signals, trying to predict the next one. The data showed something chilling. The energy waves from the ship were increasing in strength every few days, as though it was charging for something. Still, there was no attack. No sound, no movement. Only patience. Ordinary people began living in two worlds. By day they went to work, ate, and tried to keep normal life alive. By night they gathered on rooftops, beaches, and mountains, staring at the glowing object in the sky. Some whispered prayers. Others simply watched in silence, as if the sight itself could give them answers. In the middle of all this confusion, new voices began to rise. One group of scientists released a public statement saying they believed the Empire's message was not a threat, but a warning to protect Earth. They claimed the words planetary interference referred to humanity's destruction of its environment. Pollution, war, greed. "Maybe they're trying to save us from ourselves," the statement said. That idea spread quickly. For a moment, people felt hope. Maybe the Empire was not the enemy. Maybe it was a guardian, trying to stop humanity from ruining the one planet it had. But that hope didn't last long. Another group came forward, claiming the Empire was lying, that it was preparing to take control of Earth's resources. They said observation was just a cover word for invasion. Their followers grew fast, fueled by fear and anger. Protests began to fill the streets of major cities. Some demanded that governments fight back. Others demanded they surrender and beg for mercy. The world had never been so united in fear, yet so divided in purpose. Meanwhile, strange things started happening again. Ships in the middle of the ocean reported compass failures. Communication towers in certain areas stopped working for hours, then started again as if nothing happened. At night, fishermen in the Pacific saw columns of light falling from the sky into the water, vanishing without a trace. Some said they were probes. Others called them warnings. The governments tried to keep these reports secret, but people found out. The internet was full of videos, blurry lights, shaking cameras, desperate voices. Everyone had their own explanation, but no one had the truth. Amid the fear, a group of scientists made a bold proposal. They wanted to send a single message back to the Empire. Not a long explanation, just a simple signal to show that humanity had understood. After days of argument, the United Nations finally agreed. Late one night, using a global array of radio telescopes, Earth sent its first unified message into space. The transmission was short and humble. It said, "We understand. Please allow time to correct our path." When the message was sent, the whole planet seemed to hold its breath. Hours passed, then a full day. Nothing happened. The ship in the sky stayed dark and quiet. Some people started to relax, believing the Empire had accepted the message. Others worried the silence meant disapproval. 48 hours later, the sky changed. At first, the object above Earth glowed faintly, like sunlight reflected on water. Then lines of light spread across its surface, golden, precise, and slow, moving in circles. A deep vibration filled the air, gentle but powerful enough to make windows tremble and oceans ripple. Then came the new message. It wasn't heard through radios or seen on screens. It appeared in the sky itself. Across the clouds, words shimmered in soft golden light, visible from every country. This planet stands on the edge. Correction depends on choice. People fell to their knees not from fear but from something deeper, a feeling that the universe itself had spoken. The message lasted only 1 minute before fading away. After that, the object went silent again. For the next several days, a strange calm spread across the planet. It was as if the message had awakened something inside humanity. People began working together in ways no one thought possible. Cities started cleaning their streets. Factories cut emissions. Nations that had once been enemies opened borders to share food and resources. Schools held lessons under open skies, teaching children to protect the earth. Farmers planted trees along their fields. News anchors spoke softly, as if afraid to disturb the fragile peace that had settled over everything. For a while, it seemed like the world had changed. Yet beneath the calm, fear still lived. No one knew how long they had before the Empire's choice was made. Every small earthquake, every flicker in the sky, every unexpected sound made hearts race. The sense of being judged never faded. In one of the world's observatories, scientists noticed something odd. The energy levels around the ship had dropped slightly, as if the Empire was waiting. It was neither retreating nor advancing. It was giving humanity time, perhaps to prove itself. That realization spread quickly. The world understood the message at last. This was their final test. Governments began releasing new global policies overnight. Wars paused. Nuclear programs were halted. A new organization was formed, a council of scientists, engineers, and thinkers, to find ways to heal the planet faster. People started calling this movement the Turning. For the first time, humanity wasn't working out of greed or pride. They were working to be worthy of existence. Yet not everyone agreed with this new direction. A few powerful groups still believed the Empire had no right to interfere. "We are free," they shouted on broadcasts. "No one decides our future but us." Their protests grew violent in some places, leading to clashes between those who wanted to change and those who refused. The Empire remained silent, but whenever violence erupted, something strange happened. The lights on the ship would flicker faintly, like a warning pulse, and within hours, power failures or storms would strike the same regions. It was never enough to destroy, only enough to remind. People began to believe the Empire could feel human emotions: anger, fear, hope. It wasn't just watching events, it was reacting to them. Then came the event that would be remembered forever. A massive storm appeared in the northern hemisphere, larger than anything recorded before. It formed over the ocean and moved with impossible speed toward the coast. Satellite data showed something unbelievable. The storm's center aligned perfectly with the position of the Empire's ship. For 3 days, the storm raged, flooding cities and forcing millions to flee. Yet despite the destruction, there was something strange. Not a single person died. Every evacuation happened just in time, as if the disaster had been designed to scare, not to kill. When the storm finally cleared, people noticed something glowing faintly across the sky, a ring of golden light stretching from horizon to horizon. The object in orbit shone brighter than ever, then dimmed again to its usual glow. That night, a soft hum returned, lower than before, almost peaceful. Many said it sounded like a heartbeat. Others said it felt like forgiveness. Humanity had survived another warning. But deep inside, everyone knew this was not the end. It was only the pause before a final decision. As one old broadcaster said in his nightly report, his voice trembling slightly, "Maybe they're waiting to see if we can truly change, or if we're just pretending." The next sunrise was quieter than usual. The world seemed to move more slowly, as if Earth itself was thinking, just like the rest of its people. Somewhere in the deep silence of space, the Galactic Empire was still watching, patient, powerful, and waiting for humanity's choice. The world had changed, but not enough. The calm that followed the storm began to fade as the days passed. People went back to work, factories started again, and the old noise of life returned. It was slower, gentler, but still the same pattern. Humans were trying to fix things, but deep inside, fear was slipping into routine. The great ship in the sky, that silent watcher, had not moved for weeks. Its lights glowed softly at night, dimming and brightening like a steady pulse. Some said it meant approval. Others said it was the calm before the end. Every scientist who studied it came to one conclusion: the Empire was waiting for something, but no one knew what. In cities, large screens still played the last golden message: correction depends on choice. People repeated it like a prayer, though they were not sure what choice really meant. Then something new began. In many parts of the world, people started to dream the same dream. It wasn't a normal dream, not one shaped by memory or fear. It was clear and real, as if someone else had placed it in their minds. In the dream, they stood in a bright field under a golden sky, and a voice spoke gently, not in words, but in thoughts. It said only this: "The time to decide is near." When the first few people reported it, no one believed them. But as thousands shared the same dream, the news spread like wildfire. Governments panicked quietly, trying to understand what was happening. Was the Empire speaking to everyone at once? Was it trying to reach all humans directly? Religious leaders called it a vision. Scientists called it a mass telepathic signal. Whatever it was, it couldn't be ignored. Within a week, the dreams became stronger. People began to wake up in the middle of the night trembling, with the same sentence echoing in their heads. Some said the voice felt sad. Others said it sounded disappointed, like a teacher watching students who hadn't learned enough. Across the planet, tension grew again. Factories shut down once more. Stock markets fell. People left their cities and gathered in open spaces, staring up at the glowing shape in the sky, waiting for something to happen. And then it did. On a quiet morning, without warning, the entire sky filled with light. It wasn't blinding, and it was soft, golden, and endless. The clouds melted away, and the world looked washed clean. Every sound vanished for a few seconds. Then came a deep vibration, not loud but powerful enough to be felt in the chest. The air itself seemed to hum. All over the world, screens came alive. Radios turned on by themselves. Even devices with no power began to glow faintly. The Empire's voice filled every corner of Earth, not in words of fear but in calm, clear rhythm. Humanity stands at the crossroad. This planet remains divided. Correction must begin. The message repeated 3 times before fading. For a few moments there was silence, then chaos. People didn't understand what correction meant. Some believed it meant destruction. Others thought it meant change, forced change. Protests began again. Streets filled with people shouting, crying, praying. World leaders called for emergency meetings. In one underground command room, the atmosphere was thick with panic. Generals spoke of defense plans. Scientists begged for patience, and advisors argued that fighting was useless. One man finally said what everyone feared to say aloud: "If they decide we've failed, there's nothing we can do." That sentence silenced the room. While the world's leaders struggled, the people themselves began to act. In villages and cities, groups formed to help clean rivers, replant forests, and stop pollution. Children held signs that said, "Let's show them we can change." It was no longer about fear. It was about survival through unity. For the first time in history, humans weren't divided by race, wealth, or belief. They were all just earthlings standing under the same sky trying to prove their worth. Days passed, then weeks. The Empire remained quiet, as if it was watching closely. During that silence, strange lights began appearing across the world, not in the sky, but near the ground. They looked like tiny orbs floating over oceans, forests, and deserts. They emitted no sound, no heat, but wherever they appeared, plants grew faster, water became clearer, and the air turned fresh. Scientists called them restoration lights. They believed the Empire was testing Earth's ability to maintain balance. People treated them like miracles. Children ran under them, laughing as the air sparkled. Farmers said their fields grew twice as fast where the lights passed. For a short while, it felt like the world was healing. Then the orbs began to fade, one by one. As the last light disappeared, a new message appeared in the sky, written in golden lines that slowly formed across the clouds. "The test is complete. Humanity's will is known." The world froze. Every heart seemed to stop. No one knew whether that meant success or failure. Hours passed, but nothing else happened. The ship in orbit remained still. Governments sent out messages urging calm, but fear returned like a cold wind. On the third night after that message, the Empire moved for the first time. The golden ship turned slowly, facing the moon, and a beam of light extended from it, not toward Earth but toward space, like a signal being sent elsewhere. Astronomers all over the world watched in silence. The light reached far beyond the moon, vanishing into the darkness. Then, new energy waves were detected, and hundreds of them, coming from deep space. Something was responding to the Empire's signal. For days, the sky stayed strange. The stars flickered in patterns no one had seen before. The object above Earth glowed brighter each night. Then came the sound. It wasn't really a sound, more like a deep resonance felt through the ground and air. People everywhere felt it at once. Windows vibrated, oceans rippled, animals went silent. Then the message returned, echoing not from devices but inside every human mind. Decision made. Correction begins now. The words were gentle, but their weight was crushing. Some fell to their knees, others screamed, and some simply stared upward, frozen. Then, unexpectedly, beams of light fell from the ship, not destructive ones, but soft columns that touched the Earth in 12 different locations across the globe. They stayed there, unmoving, glowing like suns on the surface. People near those places reported strange things. Machines that had been broken for years started working again. Polluted rivers turned clear within minutes. The air became light and cool. Plants grew where the ground had been barren. Scientists were stunned. They realized the beams weren't destroying. They were repairing. One researcher described it perfectly. "It's as if they're erasing our mistakes." Over the next few days, those 12 beams moved slowly across continents. Forests came back to life, oceans grew calm, skies cleared. The temperature around the planet dropped slightly, stabilizing for the first time in a century. Yet the message still echoed in everyone's minds. Correction begins now. It wasn't just the planet being changed. It was the people, too. Suddenly, all digital systems across the world shut down. Power grids, satellites, communication lines, everything went dark. The world returned to silence. For the first time in modern history, Earth stood still. No internet, no electricity, no machines, only nature and the golden glow of the ship above. People panicked at first, but then something unexpected happened. Communities began helping each other. Strangers shared food, water, and warmth. Without technology, people talked face to face again. Fires burned in the streets for light, and families sat together watching the sky, whispering stories. It felt like the world had gone backward 1,000 years, but forward in spirit. After 10 days, the ship's light began to dim. Then slowly, the stars returned to normal brightness. The hum faded away, leaving only silence. When power came back on, people found a single message glowing on every screen, written in golden text. The balance has begun. Keep it, or lose it forever. Then the words faded and the sky returned to its ordinary color. The Empire's ship stayed there for a few more hours, silent and calm. Then just before dawn it started to move, slowly rising higher and higher until it became a small point of light. Then it vanished into the darkness. The world watched in silence. No one spoke for a long time. For weeks after, people lived with a new kind of quiet, not of fear but of understanding. The message had changed something deep inside humanity. They realized the Empire hadn't come to destroy them. It had come to teach them what true correction meant, not by force but by reflection. The oceans remained clear. The sky stayed blue. Forests kept growing, and humanity for once didn't rush to forget. Yet somewhere beyond the stars, the Empire was still watching. Perhaps not as a judge anymore, but as a silent guardian, waiting to see if humanity could truly live by the balance it had been given. And this time, for the first time in history, humans were ready to try. Months passed since the great ship disappeared into the sky. The world was not the same anymore. Cities still stood, people still lived their lives, but everything felt different, quieter, softer, more aware. Humanity had been changed, not by force but by understanding. The forests that once lay dry and broken had turned green again. Oceans that used to smell of oil and death now reflected the sun like mirrors. The air was cleaner, the nights clearer, and the stars brighter than anyone had ever seen. It was as if the earth itself had taken a deep breath after centuries of struggle. Yet deep in every human heart, a single question remained. Was it over? The words left by the Empire, keep the balance or lose it forever, Inami, were not just a warning. They were a promise. Humanity had been given a second chance, but no one knew how long that chance would last. Governments worked together like never before. For the first time in recorded history, there were no wars. Military forces were turned into teams that helped rebuild the planet. Scientists became the new heroes. Schools began teaching not just math or history, but care. Care for life, for land, and for each other. People learned to grow their own food again. Old machines were replaced by cleaner energy. Children played under blue skies their parents had never seen so clear. The fear that once ruled the world had changed into hope. But beneath all that hope, the feeling of being watched never completely went away. The Empire had left, yet everyone sensed it could still see everything. Some said that the glowing stars at night were not stars at all, but eyes in the dark, quietly observing Earth's every move. Then one evening, something strange happened. A faint golden light appeared in the western sky, the same color as the messages from before. It wasn't bright enough to scare anyone, but just enough to make the world look up again. People gathered in streets, on rooftops, and across hills, whispering to each other. No one spoke loudly. No one panicked. The light didn't move, and it just shimmered like a gentle heartbeat. For 3 days it stayed there. The world waited, breathless. Scientists said it was just a reflection from space debris, but no one really believed that. Every night the light seemed to pulse with quiet rhythm, as if it was reminding the world of something. Then on the 4th night it vanished. The next morning, something even more surprising happened. In cities and towns all over the world, people began waking up to find small golden symbols glowing faintly on the ground, carved into streets, fields, and walls. The symbols looked like circles connected by thin lines, the same design that had appeared on the Empire's ship. No one knew what they meant, but they gave off warmth when touched, almost like sunlight trapped in stone. Some believed they were gifts, reminders from the Empire. Others feared they were warnings, a silent reminder that the test wasn't over yet. Despite the mystery, life continued. People stopped fighting about who was right or wrong. They simply focused on doing good because deep down, everyone felt it mattered now more than ever. Years passed. Children grew up hearing stories about the golden ship and the day the sky spoke. They didn't fear it. To them, it was like a bedtime story about how humanity finally listened. The old fear turned into legend. and legend turned into history. But the universe had not forgotten Earth. One cold night, decades after the Empire's departure, a group of astronomers detected something unusual beyond the edge of the solar system, a signal. It wasn't just random noise. It had structure, rhythm, and purpose. The scientists gathered around their instruments, recording every frequency. The pattern was clear as a message. When translated through their systems, it appeared in the same golden hue humanity would never forget. It said, "Observation complete. Outcome stable. Continue your path." The scientists stared at it in disbelief. It had been so long since anyone heard from the Empire. The message spread worldwide within hours. People filled the streets, cheering and crying at once. It wasn't fear anymore. It was joy. The Empire hadn't abandoned them. It had been watching quietly, and now it had spoken, not as a judge, but as a witness to humanity's change. In the days that followed, the message appeared everywhere, in sky projections, water reflections, even faintly across desert sands. It was as if the world itself carried the Empire's approval. People began celebrating what they called the Renewal Day. It became a global holiday, a reminder of the time when humanity stood on the edge and chose to live. On that day, people lit lanterns shaped like stars, letting them float into the sky. Children laughed as they drifted upward, glowing golden like tiny suns. Yet far from Earth, something else was happening. The Galactic Empire, vast and ancient, continued its watch. Across millions of stars, countless civilizations existed under its guidance, some peaceful, some still learning. In one of its great stations, floating in eternal darkness, a council of light gathered. They spoke in thought, not sound. "Humanity has completed its correction," one voice said. "They have found balance," another agreed. A third voice added softly, "Then the cycle is proven once again. Growth through consequence." Their lights flickered like candles in the dark. "They will forget as all do," one of them said. "But the seed remains. That is enough." The council dissolved into silence, their forms fading into the glow of 1,000 stars. Somewhere among them, one beam of light lingered, a guardian presence still connected to the small blue world it had once warned. Back on Earth, life had become simple again. There were still mistakes, still struggles, but people handled them differently. They no longer blamed others. They learned, adjusted, and tried again. Humanity had found something that had been missing for centuries: humility. In one small town, a group of schoolchildren stood outside their classroom, staring up at the night sky. Their teacher told them about the time the sky turned gold, when people almost lost everything and then found themselves again. The children listened in awe, their eyes wide. One of them asked, "Will they ever come back?" The teacher smiled gently and looked up at the stars. "Maybe," she said. "But I think they're already here, watching not as rulers, but as friends who want to see us do well." The children smiled, and one of them waved toward the sky, whispering a quiet "thank you." That night, as the world slept, a soft glow appeared far beyond the clouds, faint, golden, and brief. Some saw it. Most didn't. Those who did said it felt warm, like a gentle nod from the universe. Maybe it was the Empire, answering the wave, or maybe it was just the Earth shining back, proud of what it had become. Either way, the message was clear. Humanity had been warned, tested, and changed. The Empire had given them a second chance, and this time they were ready to live in peace with their world and themselves. The stars remained bright that night, calm and endless. Somewhere beyond them, the Galactic Empire continued its silent journey, moving on to other worlds that needed to hear the same warning, the same lesson, and Earth, small, fragile, and alive, kept spinning beneath their gaze, glowing a little brighter in the dark sea of space. The story of humanity was far from over, but for now it had found something rare, not victory, not dominance, but balance. And that, the stars seemed to whisper, was enough.